Yo, what is up you guys? It's K8 here, and today we're going to make a progressive house bass. So we're going to be using good old Sylenth for this. So if you're new to my videos, what I do normally now is I throw up the preset for you guys to just copy real fast, and then we make a new initialized preset together. And it's not going to be the same one that you're going to hear right now. So now let's just play this so you get an idea what we'll be making, and then I'll throw up the bed. So that's what I wanted to show you guys, so that you get why this bass is so tame and kind of very easy to make. But there's a few things that I'll be showing you after you see the preset that will kind of make these kind of basses even easier to make, so that way you really get why I'm doing everything. So here's the patch. Alright, so now let's go ahead and just mute this, and let's start a new one down here. So it's exactly the same MIDI, which by the way, I'm playing mine around C2 range. So you can see these are long held out notes, and all the groove comes from the arpeggiator. So for me, I find it's a little bit easier to get the bass line I want in a sequencer, arpeggiator, that kind of stuff. It's always easier for me because when it comes down to the MIDI, you just lay it all down quickly, and if you want to change the pattern, you just go inside the synth. So for me, it's a little bit more functional, but let's go ahead and just trigger this. So now let's turn this on, and let's get this new Sylenth. So it's exactly the same bank even. So, oh, I should mention this. If you've bought my Sylenth bank before, the one that's on my website right now, this is going to be, these 64 presets are going to be the update for that. So if you don't know, when you buy my Sylenth bank, or have bought my Sylenth bank, I pretty much add new presets to it from time to time. So this is going to be the first 64 presets that I add to the bank. So on that page, on that bank, it's going to fill up these presets right here. So it's going to fill up from 321 to 381. So those are the new ones. So check that out if you're interested in that. Otherwise, let's just get on with it. So let's make a new bass. So for me, one little tip that helps is to listen to some sort of context. A lot of people like to make bass by themselves, and then that's why they sound so big and so heavy, and then it's really hard to then balance the mix because everything is so big that it's hard to keep the focus on certain things. So what I like to do is just listen to piano, drums, chords, and that kind of stuff, and then I'll add melody after I'm done making the bass. But let's listen to what we have now. So this is just an initialized preset. So it sounds really nice. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just go back to number 40. So these ones are empty right now, but I already have the version of this bank that has all the presets. We're just going to go ahead and go to the arpeggiator and copy this, because I like this pattern, and I do that from time to time where I reuse arpeggiator settings and things like that. Things I know that I like, I try to use those again and then change them. I like to have that starting point. So let's go here, number 46. Let's just go ahead and turn on the arpeggiator and paste this in. So like I said, the MIDI is like long sustaining, and sometimes I like the long sustaining bass style. So if I want to keep that, I can also just turn this off, have a sustaining bass line, which is always kind of interesting. But if you want that kind of more progressive, more rhythmically choppy kind of thing, then arpeggiator is the way to go. So what I do here is I set this to step mode, velocity for key. You could do step and key for velocity. And then I just kind of set up a simple 8-step pattern. So you set the rap to 8. And I use a hold, so that way it kind of does as it says. It holds certain notes in certain places, so that way it doesn't feel like a straight group. So if I take these off, it feels a lot more just like a sequence, so something like this. for me, that makes the bass sound a lot more organic. It feels like, you're just holding certain things out. It's kind of like accenting. So I love doing that kind of stuff. That's why for me, an arpeggiator is like the way to go for making bass lines. And if you can still do note changes and you can still have like the music part of it be really intricate, and just the arpeggiator just chops it up in more interesting ways. So for me, that's why I like it. And I think on the first note here, I just transpose it down an octave. So that's something I sometimes take off, sometimes I leave. So in this case, we'll leave it. I kind of like how it starts that. And let's see, the time I like to set to like 1/16, just in this grid and this timing and all that. I just kind of like it, so I'll leave it at that. And gate I like to have kind of closed down, so like 16%. It's not too open, so if we play it with it more open, it just kind of distracts a little bit more. So maybe you can't even hear this too much yet, so let's put this up a little bit. We'll tuck it down later. You want to make sure you're not in the red at any point. And let's go ahead and just start adding in some oscillators. So pretty much from everything now that we do, it's not going to be a copy of what we had in the patch I showed you. So let's set some things up that I like. So we're going to set our pitch bend up an octave, so we have some cool little pitch bending things that we could do. And also on the MIDI clip, I believe I have let's get rid of Sylenth for a second. I should have a pitch bend at the end, so that way it's just kind of like the solution to that bar. So when it ends, it ends, and it goes back to where it starts. So I do like that about it. And let's go ahead and open this up. And by the way, as you can see, there's really no processing on this, just EQ to get the melody frequencies out of the way, and just cutting some low end for the kick, making the bass a lot more mono. So you can see there's a little bit of width there, but it's really just mono at this point. I should just pull it down all the way, actually, just to make show. And a little bit kickstart for sidechain, but it's off, so not really using that because I think I have it on the group. So let's just go ahead and start listening. So the first oscillator for me when you're making a bass is the most important one. You only ever really need one oscillator for bass lines. Just adding in the extra oscillators for me is just adding in the extra characteristics, harmonics, and tones, and all that kind of stuff. But you can really get the whole essential piece of the bass in one oscillator. And usually a saw or sine wave is preferably the easiest way to go. So let's go ahead and solo this and listen. Now let's hear it with everything else. Alright, so like I said, when I'm making these, I like to listen to the overall music and not try to solo the bass too much, but because of the way I record videos, I'll just kind of do this little by little so I can explain things. So the next thing I would do is probably just add a little bit of release to this. So now I'll just kind of listen to everything and play around with it. And there's something really interesting that happens here with release, where it kind of makes sort of for an aftertouch sort of feel, and especially with the combination of the ARP, I really like that long release with the ARP that has a gate kind of short, so it's kind of a nice balance to everything. And earlier when I was showing you that kind of groovy bass, obviously it has no release, and that's how you get those kind of quick, short, like standalone bass lines that are kind of more groove bass for me. But I like long releases for basses that are going to be kind of there but not the main thing. So this kind of prog bass is not the main bass line sort of thing. This is like the bass line that's under melodies. That's the purpose of it. That's why it's kind of tame. So if we listen to the mix real quick, let's turn this off and turn the one that we started with on. If we turn this all on and take out the bass, it feels so empty. So that's why these basses are so important. Prog bass is really, really important. So this is what it sounds like without it. So you can see it's very, very simple, and the bass just fills up that whole space and it makes it a lot more epic. And right now this is just a template session, so nothing is too crazy, everything's just basic. So this is just a writing session where I just have like, I don't know how many bars, like 800 bars or so of just ideas. So let's go back to where we were. Not that it matters, I can just play from anywhere. So let's turn this off again and turn this on. Let's get back to this. So we already have what sounds like pretty much a bass sound, and with the arp doing most of that work, now we're just gonna make it a little bit more, we're just gonna give it some more flair really. So let's EQ. Let's go ahead and EQ some low frequencies around 300, 400 or so. Or actually, let's go to around 250, 220. So I'm just trying to kind of EQ around where the kick octaves would be. So if you're in C, you can kind of figure out the math there. So octaves and frequency kind of happen in doubles. So if 50 hertz is like G1, then G2 is 100 hertz. It's just always times 2. So it'd be like 50, 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200. Those are your octaves for whatever frequency sits at 50. So if you can figure out what key you're in, you can also just EQ your bass lines to fill in other frequency ranges where the kick wouldn't be. So I don't think my kick is occupying too much in the 220, so I want to put my bass more in there and away from like EQing down low like around 60 hertz where my kick is definitely at. So I'm not sure, this session's in the key of C, so I like to write that at the top. So I think C is maybe like 40 hertz. I honestly don't remember. I always look at a spectrum and then I go off of that, but we're gonna EQ around 220 just because I like to set it there by default anyways for presets. And then we'll go to treble, boost that up all the way. So we're putting the gain up pretty high on both of these to start with. We'll tuck this down to 440. So now this is a direct octave higher now. So from 220 to 440, that's an octave higher. So I'm kind of octave EQing certain parts, and I don't have to really listen to it yet. I do listen to it and make changes, but this is usually what I start with. I find my root note frequency, and then I play around with octaves in there. So we might end up turning this down, but might keep everything else. So let's listen. Let's see how it is. Sometimes chorus is a fun thing to play with. So if I was to add chorus to a bass, I would make sure the rate is kind of low and the width is also low, and then from there feedback could be high and depth could be high, and delay times can always vary if you like a longer delay or a quick delay. It really is more of a tone thing with chorus, especially because chorus relates so much to pitch. So we could try adding this in. Let's just go for it. So I think a little bit of this will be okay, and for now we can add some distortion, but I like to add in my filters first. So I'm doing this all based off of one oscillator, because like I said, we're not trying to remake the patch I showed you earlier. So we're just trying to get something that works, that's functional, and you can get an idea of how simple it is to put that stuff together. So let's go ahead and set a low pass here so we can get rid of those high frequencies. Again, just want to avoid frequencies we don't need. So we'll put the cutoff kind of low. I'm gonna want to maybe do something with the cutoff of that also. So you can see there, I just added in the cutoff, the distortion, played around with the filter, and was adding in another oscillator. But you can tell the basic part of this sound is all there. Just like I said, adding the extra oscillators and all that kind of stuff is just more fiddling. But this is totally functional right now, especially if you just make it a little bit louder. I don't want to be in the red, but I would turn this up a little bit louder. So I know this was a really probably way too long video about something as simple as this, but I think just knowing basics lets you step up to more advanced stuff. So I'd rather give you guys like the foundation so that way you can improve it yourself and keep going up, instead of me just showing you the most crazy bass ever and you not understanding what you're doing. So hopefully this is useful. Thanks guys for watching, and of course, lates.